Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves. Season 8.
Did you ever think we were going to get here?
No, honestly, I find that a bit nuts.
Yeah.
And honestly, season 8, it's actually season 8 though, isn't it?
It is officially season 8. It's not like
As it, but it's also
7.5.
our 8th season.
Yes, exactly. You know, we are caught up to whatever bullshit we...
Okay, fine. So all the numbers are right now.
Exactly.
Okay.
We are once again aligned.
Okay. Well, that means we've also caught up, which is a really good sign, I guess.
Yeah.
4.1 was a delaying one.
Exactly.
So, but was always going to happen, just at a different time.
Right.
So it means now we're back on track.
8's a great number, right? So like when I lived in Asia, everybody loves 8.
Well, what's interesting is that we say there's 7 karmic themes. So 8 is after karma.
It is. Yes, there we go. And 8 is infinite.
Ah.
Right?
So what is season 8 about?
Give what you got.
Give what you got.
Yes.
Okay. So can you explain what this is about?
We always taught from season 1, you get what you give was effectively the karmic lesson.
And what does that mean?
It's sort of the common belief that karma is what goes around comes around. And in some ways, you get what you give almost sounds like that. But we switched that around, as we always said. You know, there's a different way to look at karma. It's really the necessary step to free ourselves from this life of separation in which we live in judgment and shame, and to bring ourselves into wholeness, or as spiritual people like to use the term, oneness. And once you're in oneness, then peace will prevail in your personal life, and then that will hopefully translate into the rest of your life being beautiful, right?
Because when people look at karma, karma is something that's outside of us that's coming to hurt us.
Yes.
Or actually, we say that karma is actually showing you where you are giving away your power.
Exactly.
So in all those places where things seem to be wrong, or the shit that happens, that's where you're giving away your power.
Right.
So if you can look at that and say, where am I believing that I'm not good enough? And allowing this,
Yes.
and take responsibility and make different choices, you can change your life.
Precisely. And so what we're challenged to do when we are approaching our karma is to empower ourselves, is to choose the most powerful path, right? The one in which we can be in our power or fully empowered and move forward.
Yeah.
And is that level of empowerment that allows us to shift out of all the bullshit that colors our lives. So this season where we say, give what you got, it's now that you're a powerful being, now that you've owned your divinity, which we equate to being powerful, what can you do with it? How are you going to apply it? And what magic can you wield from it? So we get to share the second letter in our name, which is magic.
M.
Right? The M.
Fun!
Yeah. Is it going to be fun? God, I hope so.
I mean, we've already got there in season 8, but yeah. Fun.
Sorry, the 100+ episodes you have to wade through just to...
No, we did. There was quite a lot of magic in the end of season 7.
Okay.
But this is where we can really dig into it rather than just what it is and what it is not.
Yes.
And there was also
That's
a little
true.
bit of magic in the sex episodes.
Okay.
In the last one, we talked about divine sex and power and shit like that.
Ah, thank you for reminding me.
So, I paid attention to where the magic is. But
Everyone, Rhea was just looking to mine all the information about magic. And
I mean,
how to
why am
apply
I
for
here
it.
otherwise?
True.
So we're kind of moving out of the K into the M,
Yes.
effectively.
Exactly. This is the official beginning of the M series.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Because as you said, there's 7 karmic themes,
Yeah.
right? And
7 seasons.
7 seasons. And so now we get to finally get out of karma.
Oh, I
and
didn't
to
know
move
that.
Into magic, yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, yeah. This episode is going to have a lot of stupid little nuggets like that.
Okay, cool. I'm into it. Let's do it.
Yeah. But unfortunately, or fortunately, before we get to the spicy stuff or the fun stuff that we all kind of come for, we always have to give a background thing.
Okay.
And episode 1 usually is the background episode.
It's the foundational one.
Well, they're always foundational.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's it's foundational, it's background, it's history, it's whatever we need it to be.
Yeah.
But it's effectively pointing to where we're going to go through the 20 episodes, right?
Okay.
And we've always understood that, and it took us a few seasons to figure this out because we never even asked. I would channel these outlines at some point. We would record them. And then by the end of the season is when we usually see how everything fit together. There was always a specific logic to the order, and one that we could never appreciate, especially if we were in the middle of it. The first 4 in the season are foundational. And then the following 4 is when we incorporate the learning that foundation provides. The following 12 takes that learning and it elevates everything. And then we'll show all the application throughout the layers of our lives individually and collectively.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. That's not how the karmic seasons worked. They were a little bit slower and longer because we had so much we had to trudge through. That it had to be broken down in other ways, but it's similar in pattern.
Well, I guess also because the karmic episodes are denser energy.
Precisely.
Because the more you slough off your karma, the lighter you become, the faster you move through stuff. Like, I even noticed that, like, when I'm working through even, like, an issue now, it's so much faster. It's so much easier because it's just, it doesn't have to, like, go through the, oh, I'm so not good enough. Oh, why am I here to suffer? Yeah. Blah, blah. I can just get to the point.
Exactly.
And then just move on from the point.
Yeah. And part of that is your ego. Once it's really about having divested yourself of enough ego to be able to do that.
Well, surely is it all your ego or enough ego? I'm just asking.
No, I said enough of your ego.
Oh, so is that all of it?
Ideally, you don't want any. But for some who might have just gotten out of their karma, the reason why they might still find working through issues a bit challenging, when we say, oh, it's just so easy, it takes, 2 hours of me just kind of sitting alone in a room or however, whatever.
Or just
your
you ask
process
for,
is.
the answer appears.
Precisely.
Sometimes it could take 1.5 years for the answer to appear, but it always appears.
It does. But it takes longer with the ego governing because we're constantly in judgment. Yeah. Right. And so we're seeking out a level of punishment, even if we're the ones doling out that punishment. Mm. So it's another several month process often when the ego has a say.
Coming out of my ego is harder than coming out of my karma.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we have good news, Rhea. Sadly for you.
No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
You know what we're about to say?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you want to just say it?
No, you say it. I'm so sad.
I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. I almost want to be like, just don't be in the room.
Yeah.
Don't cry.
Okay, fine. Just go for it.
It's a lot easier to burn out our egos now than it was 2 years ago.
Why?
We reached such a breaking point with judgment because, since 2020 and everything that transpired over the 2 years, that people are pretty much like, fuck it. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And that's, yes, it helps with karma, but a lot of people are actually trapped more in their karmas than they are in their ego. Oops. I mean, there is still a lot of that because there's a lot of judgment floating around, but there is a bit of, it's lighter now.
Okay.
Because there's a little less self-judgment.
To be honest, we joke that, but actually I'm glad I did it when I did it, even if it was harder, because I got more time with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there really wasn't anything in your path that was obstructing that process because things were quite quiet. Things were a bit slower. That wasn't necessarily the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whatever. I want everyone to have no karma or ego, so, good for them.
Because you don't have your ego anymore. You can just wish everyone well.
For fuck's sake. It annoys me significantly, but yeah, I know.
See, even without your ego, you can still be annoyed.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
And effectively, when we talk about ego, it's not about, although it is identity to an extent, it is also just judgment, shame, being able to live in that polarity of like, Precisely. There's a right, there's a wrong, I must look this way, I must act this way, I must be this way. Yeah. And actually, to be free of one's ego is to be able to honor and be whoever you are in that moment, whatever that is.
And then be able to extend that to others as a result. Yes.
Yeah. I'm still learning.
We're always learning. That's the thing. And I'm sorry to say that as long as we are in body on this earth plane, living and breathing human beings, we are always going to learn. We do not stop learning until the day our human bodies expire.
Well, that's why we're here, isn't it?
Precisely. That is why we are here. To be the divine in body is the spiritual explanation of why we are here.
But when you say the divine in body, when I used to hear that, what I would think is a bit like, okay, so we have come to be either the spiritual being having a human experience, and the spiritual being has gone on the roller coaster of human life.
Yes.
And therefore, like, the spiritual, like, permeates through the humanness to allow us to have, like, a Garden of Eden world, as it were. or that humans were effectively learning that there was something bigger than them that they were part of. So it was kind of like humans going, oh, actually, I'm pretty spiritual. Actually, you know what I mean? So it was always one.
There's more.
Yeah, there's like always, it was either kind of like the spirit becoming human or the human becoming more spiritual.
Yeah.
Right? And actually what I've learned is that that's neither are actually true.
Exactly. I mean,
and I know that sounds quite a lot. That's quite intense to say. And whilst they both feel true in some ways, the reason why neither are true is because both are true in a weird, fucked up way, in the sense that we are here to be both divine and human at the same time.
Yes. We'll grant you that bit is true. But it needs to be even more elevated than that. And that's such a popular notion among spiritual influencers. You see that a lot, right? We're actually just really spiritual beings having this human experience. So, if you slough off the human experience and really own your spiritual side, then that's how you're going to, as you said, effectively get to the garden.
It's bullshit, because that's not even detachment. That's just denial.
Exactly.
We're not here. I feel so strongly about this. I just cannot. We can't keep running away from our shit, our karma, all of it, by just saying, oh, but this is just a spiritual experience. We are here in body to be in body.
Yes.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
No.
It doesn't make any sense. So to run away by saying, oh, but this is just a spiritual moment and doesn't mean anything else, And
then in my human life, to be just human and entrenched in a human experience is so lame, or it really sucks. I'm just going to escape that. I mean, that is effectively, that notion is just escapism 101.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right? Spiritual escapism 101, I mean.
That actually doesn't add to your life.
No, it does nothing.
It does nothing apart from that. It's the kind of thing, and I used to do it all the time. It's just like everything happens for a reason. Oh, there's a bigger path out there for me that that I'll find when I'm ready, or someone will bestow it upon me because I followed all the rules. I've basically just transferred all the shit that I'd learned in polarity in a human system and just made it into one that was a relationship with the universe. It was bullshit.
Exactly. It's just still separation. Like what you described is effectively separation, whichever way you look at it.
Because the other side, when you're talking about humans having a spiritual experience, it kind of sounds like religion to me.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. And that was the gift of religion, right? For humans to remember that they weren't necessarily as small as they might have believed, right? That there was something, quote unquote, bigger out there. Yeah.
But what actually, I have to say, and I've seen this a lot as well at the moment, and it's not so much kind of the people who are teaching, but more the consumers.
Okay.
Where that's very much what I'm seeing. Oh, I worked on myself, therefore the universe bestowed upon me this person, this job, this thing. You know what I mean?
I went on a retreat in Maui.
Yeah, it's exactly. So humans having this spiritual experience is literally, it's become this kind of literally I've prayed to a God and he answered my prayers in a much more spiritual sense, but it's exactly the same thing. But in both of those, if we talk about karma and the way that it is, where are we giving away our power? In both of those situations, we're giving away our power. On one side, we're giving away our power because we're saying, forget your humanness, forget what you're actually experiencing, just run away from it in your head and just go, whatever will be, will be. We'll just be grateful for the things we got. Peace out.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you're giving away your power because you're giving it to someone else who's saying they gave me what I wanted because I acted in XYZ way. Oh, the universe was so proud of me that it gave me my prize. And I'm just like, come on.
Yeah.
And, we've spoken so many times about how actually you are that universe.
We are the divine embodied. And so what that means is that we are the divine. We're not a divine being. We are not a God in our world. We are the divine. And we are here to remember that we are the divine who is fully present and awake and conscious for this human experience. And that is to teach us what it means to be fully alive.
You're going to need to explain all of that.
I will explain. So not only do we have to remember that we are the divine and not just divine as in the adjective, but we are the noun.
So what does that mean?
When we remember that we are the divine, that is how we can have that sort of elevated and enriching and blissful experience, right? Now, it doesn't mean that we divorce ourselves from our human experience. It actually just means we're enhancing that human experience. So we're not moving away from it at all. We cannot divorce ourselves from the human experience. We actually need to entrench ourselves in it So that way, the human experience becomes so enriched that it can actually evolve.
And it becomes divine.
Exactly.
Because we are in it.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're all the divine. All of us.
All of us. There isn't a single living, breathing being.
Even like an ant. Even like an ant.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
Wow, the divine is real huge.
Yeah.
So it's effectively like the divine is a body, and we're like all the little cells that make up the divine. So we are the
That's
divine.
one way to look at it. Yeah.
So, like, as in, like, my cell, my finger is still me, but it's also my finger.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still the divine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
No,
exactly.
It's like if I was the divine, as in I am the divine.
Yeah.
My finger is also the divine.
Yes.
But it's also a finger.
Yeah.
So like, as in, so the divine exists. I am like the finger of the divine, but I'm also Rhea.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes it's tricky when you sort of describe the divine as a body. A lot of people have that mixed up when it comes to their vision of God as like, you know, this kind of like Santa Claus-y guy in the sky.
Yeah.
Problem is that any of those notions, they just keep moving everything outside of us, right? And so we keep looking at everything backwards. And when that happens, we remain out of our power. Right? So no matter which way you look at it, even the more quote unquote spiritual way, it's still outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we remain disempowered beings.
When we're constantly looking outside of ourselves to give us what we want.
Yeah.
And thinking that if we don't get something, it's because either we did something wrong, we did something bad, or it's not on our path, like we can't choose it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're constantly not realizing that this world is a playground and we're going to play in it.
We're also limiting the ways in which we see ourselves and our abilities. And not just in that sort of I'm not good enough way, which is our karmic theme effectively. Even when we're out of that and we want to espouse the spiritual notion, we're still grasping at straws. Yeah. We're still trying to prove that we're good enough by being good enough spiritual beings, that we are worthy souls, right? I'm taking an ice bath every day in order to sort of help my, you know, because I'm doing, it helps me with XYZ things.
I meditate every morning.
Exactly. I do yoga, 5 times a day.
And it's fine if you do those things. Well, it doesn't need to be part of your identity.
Exactly. I think that's really where people have really gone off the rails, is how much all of that has become a part of their identity, right down to the relationships they have, which is not just ego-based, but that's just borderline, I'm not labeling here, but it's borderline narcissism. My partner reflects my level of spirituality. Like when you start to see...
I was like, where's she going with this?
No.
And listen, look, as we've taught many times over and over again, and I will probably say it till I'm blue in the face, we do end up with our mirrors in some way always. Mm-hmm. But that's not because they are a reflection of us. It's that we can see our reflection in them. I didn't know that until just now, but that makes perfect fucking sense. Mm-hmm.
Keep going. Aren't I? Just keep going. Finish the thought.
So I can't now because I was just so astounded.
I know. I was like, don't get sidetracked here.
I need to date someone genius now so we can reflect each other.
Okay, that's the borderline narcissism I'm talking about. Okay.
But what was I saying? It's not that they're mirroring us, it's that we see our reflection in them. Yes. So when we fall in love with someone and, you know, when we love, we're actually loving ourselves in that relationship. Like we're watching our love be reflected back to us. Mm-hmm. It's not about who they are, what they do, that's the reflection. It's about what we see in ourselves. That's the reflection. That's the mirror. So when you're talking about, oh, this person is super spiritual, therefore I'm super spiritual, what you're actually seeing being reflected is the insecurity of, am I actually super spiritual? Because I'm looking to someone else to be spiritual so that I know that they're mirroring back to me my spirituality. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, from a personal perspective, everyone has their own tastes. Yes. I mean, I know for you, you're the same. I very much struggle to date a spiritual person. I don't need to have a fight with them and to be like, what's your inner child telling you now, babe? I don't need it. I feel
like this conversation and this argument has taken us out of 5D.
Yeah.
I do not feel in oneness when you're speaking to me like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Sorry. It doesn't work. When that's the thing, like when you talk like, I like being with humans, as it were. I like living a human experience. Like being human is beautifully fucking messy.
Oh God, it's so amazing.
Even sex is messy. It's all messy. It's all messy all the time. Messy. I mean, not to get graphic, but when I first found out that things pop back out and then they had to pop back in, I was shocked. I was like, I just thought it went in like a suction pad and then it was in there. It was fine. I had no idea shit got messy. Shit got real. Do you know what I mean?
You couldn't say that during our sex episodes.
No, I'm going to say it now.
Oh, God.
It's chaotic. It's fun. Like we
I
have all these.
Didn't share that story. I can't get it out of my head.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'll recover.
Yeah. But you know, it's chaotic. It's fun. It's all those things. And actually, I would want to be with someone who allow me to experience those with them. Yeah. You know, yes, I can elevate it all the time and be like, what am I learning? But actually, the most fun I have is just being like, oh my God, I have managed to create for myself this really cool fucking ride.
Yeah.
Like, how amazing is this? You know, like I'm here for it.
Yes.
I'm here for it. You know, and like my power is in making it as great as it could be for me.
Yeah.
And therefore teaching other people. And one of the things that makes it as great as it can be for me and how much joy I get out of it is helping other people join me for the ride.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know what I mean? And in looking at it that way, it also removes all like the heaviness and the seriousness from it. Because I feel like when we're really like focusing on like the spirituality and like, let's all just be like humans having a spiritual experience, or
and let's just detach.
Or like even both ways, all the spirituality having a, you know, there's a lot of like seriousness to it. There's a lot of like heaviness to it. There's a lot of like obligations and like, you know, like I remember like saging my house used to take me like a good 45 minutes to 3 hours.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my God, I was like I followed it to the letter like a psycho because I was scared that if I didn't, something bad would happen and I wouldn't have done it properly. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, actually, we're here to have fun. We're here to be happy. We're here to be enjoyed.
There was no other reason to come. I mean, it was
you used to give us a lot of like, oh, we're here to like learn.
Well, we are here to learn, but that learning can actually be fun and it can be experienced through joy, as we've discussed in previous seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that. Like, we know that.
Like more of, oh, I like this, not I hate this.
Yes. Or, ooh, this is unpleasant. Let me just
tweak it.
Yeah. And okay, I've gained some wisdom from this. I don't have to repeat that. I mean, let's be fair. Like 7 seasons of Karma, that got heavy. That wasn't easy. There were times you wanted to quit. And
I mean,
so we all know that. I try to forget.
Yeah.
So
it was really hard. It was really
very hard. So yeah, we know that.
Because the world is heavy. That's when we talk about raising vibration. It's making shit lighter. I remember at one point I suddenly realized I wanted to live in a world where I didn't learn from pain, where I didn't associate love with pain, where I didn't associate all the things that I wanted to live for with suffering. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just thought, well, why am I then? Mm-hmm. And obviously going through 7 seasons of karma, as it were, and all the karmic shit and all the ego shit, I came out the other side and I was like, okay, well, I've done that work now. I figured out where all my pain was. What I was reliving over and over again, that original pain, I've healed it, I've walked through it, I've done all the things I needed to do. And it's not like I don't get sad or upset now. No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I don't have this searing suffering inside. Yes. And without that searing suffering, you can learn through joy and love. And I think that's what we all want.
Yeah. I mean, and what was the hallmark? Like, what was the thing that took you through that?
First thing I had to do was take responsibility for how I'd created the life that I was in.
That was causing your suffering?
Yeah, basically. And I just had to understand that I was so powerful. I'd made myself believe I was powerless. And we know I repeated that phrase so much in the first couple of seasons. But I think it's just it for me is the hallmark of karma. You are so powerful, you have convinced yourself that you are powerless.
Yeah.
And once you're able to take responsibility for how you are making yourself believe you are powerless, you can take that power back and use it differently. Mm-hmm. And it's just as simple as that. It's owning our power.
And part of that is no longer playing the victim.
100%. There are moments where we're feeling really uncomfortable inside and we're feeling powerless. It's normally because somehow we've given our power away.
Yeah. And that is the beauty of the karmic process, and which is why we spent so many seasons on karma and 3+ books on karma, because that's the game changer.
Yeah. Where am I giving my power away?
Exactly. Karma forces us to confront where we are not in our power, where we are not empowered individuals.
If I feel clear that I want to do something, I do it. If I don't, I don't. And it's just, I cannot abandon myself for anything or anyone at any point.
Yeah.
And every time I choose myself, naturally, in doing so, I learn something new. There's a reason, and there's a reason it's for my betterment. And when I say betterment, I fucking hate this word that you introduced to me, basically it's for more joy and more love in my world.
Yes.
If I don't abandon myself, my life gets filled with more love and more joy from myself and others. Yeah. So that is my golden rule.
We need to live our lives.
Yes.
We need to not be trading our freedom for comfort and security, because that's not living.
Like, to live our lives is basically just to dive headfirst into joy and do the things that make us happy. Like, do the things that bring us joy. Yeah. And it could look really weird, like going to record a podcast with a lady that you met in the gym. Just saying. But who knows where it could lead?
Exactly. Because the divine is joy. The divine is pure joy. And so in order to experience ourselves as the divine is to experience joy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's
a bit heady, sense. No,
it makes perfect sense. It just feels like a massive leap. Like, but as in, like, can I really be in joy all the goddamn time?
Yes.
I mean, that sounds great. But then question, does joy then become normal, and then do you not know you're in joy anymore?
It is the human condition, right? For stasis, to sort of normalize things, but when you start to move up those levels, as we talked about in some episode about, happiness and bliss, those levels, you want that, you want that normalized.
Yeah.
Because the more joy becomes normalized, so even if you're not getting like that pleasure, exciting feeling in your chest or whatever, however joy is experienced, you're just not sad. You're operating from that level, that vibrational level all the time. So everything that you do and engage in and touch
reflects it back to you.
Precisely.
Because you're seeing your own reflection.
It's not even reflects it back to you, but
is born from it.
Exactly. Also is touched by your joy. Touching and exploring and engaging at that level, and for it to become normalized, is pretty fucking amazing. No, it's not quite that sort of happiness and bliss that, is the B in our name, but we'll get there too. When we are the divine, truly exploring who we are, and humanity is an extension of the divine, you can imagine just how brilliant humanity is, right? How creative and powerful and interesting and diverse and funny and ridiculous humanity is, right? When you think about your human experience and all the foibles that come with it, it's fucking funny.
Like pooing.
I was going to say sex. Okay. And the things popping out as you said. God, that image! Jesus! I'm going to have a dream about that tonight. Thank you. In order to create, as we've said, that is when humanity is at its greatest. But what we've seen of late, and I mean really for the past decade, if not more, really, because we're always aware when you just look at, 20th century history, humanity at its lowest is destructive and cruel. But what allows us to traverse that spectrum of humanity's greatest and lowest highs and lows, right, is love. Love is what moves the needle across the spectrum.
Yeah. But love isn't shining our light for others to see.
Yes.
But why is it love that allows us to do that?
Because the more in our light we are, which is, love is just the expression of our light.
Which is basically like joy plus 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 plus.
Precisely, is what moves that needle across. So the more joy, the more love we are expressing and that we are in, and we're, and that is our divinity. Yeah. That is us being the divine. Yeah. The more we will create, right? The lighter our lives become. Yeah. Effectively, the higher our vibration is.
Yeah.
So the reason why we are experiencing humanity at its lowest right now is because we are living in a time of great loss. Because we're feeling so much loss, as in the loss of our realities, the loss of our identities, we have become lost. We really do not know who we are anymore. And that's why it seems as if humanity has literally gone off the rails, right? It's almost like, wow, there's nothing left to hold it together. Because ego, for as much as it has hurt us, was designed to protect us.
Yeah.
It was designed to give us a sort of modus operandi in 3D consciousness, in our 3D separation world.
But if ego was effectively there so we didn't have to deal with our karma, and people are refusing to deal with their karma, is it any surprise that ego is having to go so they can?
Yeah.
When I say our shit is up in our face, it's because we're having, literally, we can't hide behind anything anymore, like not even our own identities.
No. But it is so untethering when you don't have an identity anymore. There's a remedy for this. What will allow us to move from this sort of like later 2022 experience into 2025, it's truth. We need to be able to answer what is our unwavering truth, right? Now, there is only one truth, and that we are the divine. But
because everything else, truth is relative.
Exactly. It's all relative, and everything is just sort of an extension of that one truth as we know it. Because we cannot see that truth and we cannot recognize that truth, because we are so entrenched, not in our human existence or lives, but in our powerlessness. And now we cannot recognize that we are the divine if we are powerless.
Yeah.
Until we can start to see the truth and believe in the truth, we will remain ungrounded. Because what is happening and I'm so sorry for making this episode any longer than it has to be, but what keeps 3D consciousness and that framework, right, propped up are the tent poles. And we talk about the tent poles. I don't want to have to necessarily rehash for 15 minutes. But there are 3 tent poles that prop up 3D consciousness. They are religion, government, and economics. We cannot evolve with them, right? We have become stagnant. We are effectively destroying ourselves by keeping them propped up because we remain out of our powerlessness, because they feed off of our power. So the whole purpose of why this bullshit is happening outside in the bigger world, and everything's falling apart, and systems of government are falling apart, and everything's falling apart, is because we're having to move into 5th dimensional consciousness, right? And create 5D frameworks. So we cannot have tent poles in 5D. As we've explained in a previous episode, everything is sort of horizontal, not sort of vertical power. It's all horizontal power in order to enable and empower a collective. Because 3D is falling apart, in order for us to be able to create the 5D framework and exist within it, we have become so ungrounded because we do not know who we are. Mm. And so this entire episode is about, until you can remember that you are the divine, you're going to get spun around in this tornado that the unraveling of 3D is creating. And you're going to take it all so seriously, that's going to become
your reality
and your identity as a victim or as a perpetrator, or you're going to try to fall on one side or the other because you're just going to keep reaching and reaching at polarity. Everything is just going to end up going to this extreme. So 2025 and the path to 2025, and again, we'll go there, but what we're going to see in the coming years is a level of extremism that we have never known before.
Oh, interesting.
Now, as we said, the end of 3D and the sort of establishing of the 5D framework was 2020 to 2024. Because of the way things went down from 2020 to 2022, effectively the timeline got pushed out to 2026, which still stands. Yeah. But 2 things, and this might come up in a later episode because I feel like I've already written it somewhere. The 2024 deadline still stands.
Oh.
Okay. Hold on though. But there are caveats to the 24, 25, and 26 years. Okay. So 2024, that deadline still stands as far as the individual choice to move into 5D. Now, we always talked about oneness in the earlier seasons because oneness is effectively what will enable 5D. Okay? Oneness is not 5D. It is just the way in which we can individually come into 5D, in ourselves, that we can sort of start to adopt that higher consciousness that will enable us to live and exist and help contribute towards the 5D framework. The individual choice still needs to be made by 2024. We are not there yet. You need a certain you need scale, and we're not there yet, but there's still time. The reason 2025 has become important is that if there's enough of the individual choice made by 2024, then 2025 will be the year in which we see a massive split in our physical reality between 3D and 5D. Now, it wasn't meant to be this way. It was meant to be a much more, subtle being a relative term, but it was supposed to be a more gradual, less obvious move, where, as we had said in Welcome to the Jungle, it was almost like 3D and 5D could just kind of coexist. By 2025, that may not really be the case. It might just be a lot starker. And that's kind of what will sort of yield that sort of dystopian reality in view that a lot of people have been fearing, but has really reemerged. Now, 2026, as the timeline got pushed out, is where, depending on how things go in 2025 with that 3D, 5D split, then 2026 will then show exactly how or whether 5D can actually be possible here. People want to believe that 5D is written, and it is, in terms of there's a blueprint, but whether or not that blueprint is executed, that's not written. That depends entirely on humanity's consciousness and where it lies. So then I asked, okay, but if we're all the divine, can't we just all like kind of wave our magic wands and just get there, right? Like, why not? Like, why do we have to go through this like painstaking exercise? But it's because humanity was built and designed in such a way that unless the consciousness is there, it will not be able to maintain itself. If 3D is something that's a very outside in sort of thing, like where everything is just a reaction to our outer circumstances, and that's always defined how we've operated in 3D, we can't take that into a sort of new framework because it's just we're going to end up recreating the old. So this entire exercise has depended upon humanity remembering its divinity. So effectively, what we have to do with those who desire 5D, we have to be able to create not necessarily alongside, but effectively apart from. It's not, you know what, we'll share this. It's not about success at this rate. Can you just freaking live in joy? Can you just live out your days however you fucking wish and find your freedom? Go for that.
Yeah.
That is the message I've been getting over and over the past few weeks, because there's no point in trying to keep our eyes on the prize. It used to be a few years ago even, this was our prize, right? Like our eyes were on the goal, like the 5D, let 3D come down. It's so great. And we all know how it's going to play out because people will come into higher consciousness and they'll see that it's so much better.
I'm kind of feeling a bit futile right now.
Yeah. And it's not to say that it is futile. It's almost no point, because some might say, well, it's going to happen anyway. 5D is going to happen no matter what we do. Maybe it'll just take longer in future generations. But there is a timeline, because what's happening, and I'm really sorry, I feel like I've segued off of We Are the Divine.
Yeah. You really have.
I really went sideways on this. But what will happen and why there's a specific timeline is everything's always evolving. Everything's always moving. So we are effectively creating technology that will hamper humanity's evolution if we don't have the consciousness in order to use it. Because we're creator beings. Humanity created this technology, right? It's advanced because we have the capacity to use it. But if we don't have the consciousness in order to utilize it for humanity's betterment, it will work against humanity. And so that is why our advice right now and what this season is about and why we're recording it right now, I've got to run toward the joy. Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.